What's poppin'? My name is Richie and today I'm going to show you guys how you can create your own live events in Fortnite Creative. I show you the necessary mechanics, some little tricks and tips. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's start with the first and most important thing, and that is teleporting players through locations, teleporting players to timed locations, so where you teleport them and then the next second they get teleported to something else, so you can create different live events in that live event, or you can even randomize them in some cases. So let's start out first. How do we teleport players that not interact with the portal? So let's say you want to teleport someone from one location to another location by a timed objective device. So this timed objective device here is set up to teleport someone in 5 seconds to this teleporter. So you can see here channel 9, when completed, it's gonna teleport the player over here. But you don't want anything that anybody is interacting with anything. So you just want the game to start and then in 5 seconds the player gets teleported. If you would do this right now, this would not work. So you can see here the event starts in 3 seconds and as soon as the timer ends, I do not get teleported. The reason why this is happening is because nobody interacted with this device. And most of the devices in Fortnite Creative do not interact with players or do not investigate in players if they do not have a specific setting for that. So for example, there is a few devices which can do this, and I'm going to come to that in a second. But most of the devices do not interact if you do them from game start or something. So if you want to teleport everybody via game start, this will not work on most of the device. So another thing which a lot of people could think of is that they put some kind of different device which is a little bit more versatile in between, such as the trigger device. But this will also not work. All this will do is will activate the trigger device, but it will not send any player information to the teleporter. And that means that you not get teleported. So you can see that here. If we start, we have the same countdown from the game start. You can see that the trigger device will get activated, but I do not get sent to the portal. So this would be the first solution that would actually work without a player ever touching anything in here, and that is including the RNG device. The RNG device is one of the only, or actually the only device that can send player information without anybody ever touching the RNG device or any device that is activating the RNG device. So in solution, this means we can do the same setup here. We can use the timed objective device which runs down and then activates the RNG device. This RNG device then activates a trigger device which then can send our player information to the portal and sends us to the portal. Yes, you could technically also put in channels in here, like up to 4 different channels, but I like to use trigger devices in the zone of the RNG device. Because it's a lot easier to see, and people can, if you work with multiple people, it's a lot easier to recognize what is going on here. We can see, same thing, game starts from game start, nobody ever touched anything, and now we get actually teleported via the RNG device. You can see here that is completely just doing the RNG devices. If I jump on here again, I get teleported again. Problem with this solution is that the RNG device is very buggy. And currently, at this point of this recording, the RNG device only does this after the first time you place it. So it kind of like breaks after leaving the map, which is very unfortunate. So you cannot use it at the current time. Hopefully that is getting fixed soon. I'm pretty sure this has been in the game for a longer time. That's the reason why a lot of people don't use this method anymore, or don't use it at all currently. It is a working method. It works super fine. But sadly it's breaking, so that is not very good. So let's come to the solution that I prefer right now in terms of the efficiency that you can have with the music sequencer. So since I think the last update, or I think it was even the update before that, there was a new option in the music sequencer which is called send player information, which now allows the sequence of the music sequencer to actually send player information. That means if I jump on here, this like little music title is going on there is actually sending my play information, which means I can teleport through this sequence. This would still not work if I would just put on game start and do not interact with this music sequencer at all. So you can see here it's not working. If we start the game, this would not work. I will not get teleported. But thankfully there is a device which allows us to send player information without interacting really with it. The players technically interact with it, but they don't know that they interacted with it, and that is the mutator zone. The mutator zone has options to send player information if player entering or leaving the device. So what this could mean is that you could just simply start the game, and then when the player stands in this mutator zone, the mutator zone sends a signal to our timer. The timer then starts, sends a signal to the music sequencer, and then teleports us away, which is very helpful. So you can see here we set up the mutator zone, and as soon as we step into the mutator zone, we're gonna activate our sequence and then we're gonna get teleported. The reason why it's currently on is because for the video, so you usually would turn that off so the player doesn't see when they go into imitator zone or not, or stand already in one. So we see we stand in here, the timer gets activated, then the sequencer gets activated, and we're gonna get teleported. That seems a little bit complicated and a little bit overkill for just one teleport, but trust me, if you do multiple sequences, this is a game changer and is really saving a lot of time and a lot of channels in your maps. A different solution would also be using player spawns, where you can send a signal as soon as you spawn in, which has the same effect. The player interacts with the objective and we get teleported. It's not that convenient as using Mutator Zone, because you obviously need to have his player spawn pad, but if you want to have something from the game start immediately when the game starts, or if you teleport players to different locations, or if they spawn in different locations, this is obviously a very great option as well. Now I can also give you an example on how you can set this up for live events, since this video is technically about live events. So we have the same setup as over there. The mutator zone, as soon as we step in, gets activated. Then we're gonna have the objective device running into the music sequencer, which then activates two different channels. So we're gonna first get teleported to this channel over here, which runs over to this whole sequence where we can see Jonesy running up the mountain. And then we have, as soon as the music sequencer hits the second one, we're gonna get teleported over here, which then is Jonesy on the hill. I know, it's not the most interesting live event that you can possibly have, but you hopefully get the deal. So now you can see everything that's going to happen. As soon as we step in this tile where the mutator zone is, we're going to get teleported, or we start the timer and then get teleported. So you can see timer starts, countdown runs down. We're going to get teleported to our first location, which is Jonesy going up the hill, and then we're going to get teleported to Jonesy being up the hill. And that is how you can create very easy and efficient live events with as little channels as possible. Alright, there's one more cool thing which I want to show you guys what you can do with the teleporters, and that is using new vents and in combination with teleporters. Since the vents are now possible to turn off in game, they're very nice for events and you can really be very creative with them. One thing which you can do is kind of create an endless skydive or something where you float in the space or something, and all you have to do is basically turn the vents off invisible here, and then set up whatever you need for your event, and make sure that you have skydive after launch, which means you're gonna go into skydive mode here and you kind of float on these air vents. So you can see here they're under me, and if you place them high enough in the sky, you will not pull out your parachute by default, and that is really cool. It looks like if you are something like put a sky barrier behind, like one of the star fields or the nebula one, this kind of looks like you're like kind of floating in sky, which can be obviously used for very cool live events, such as, like, I don't know, the Travis Scott one was kind of like that, where you kind of float in the air. Looks really cool and can be very effective. There's also one more thing which is very important, and that is creating a specific class for live events. So how you can do that is obviously with the class designer and the class selector. In the class designer, you select your classes which you want to create. You just put in whatever settings you want here. For example, I have like the name event class. Make sure that you always have a class identifier. So I have one on here. Then start with pickaxe to know, so we just start with our hands, which obviously is very good for cinematic shots. Start to invincible so nobody gets killed. Movement multiply to 2, whatever. Gravity to very low so you can jump around a lot, which kind of gives a Travis Scott feeling. Jump fatigue obviously to off. And then how you can get people to actually activate this class, or how do people get in this class. So for example, you have a map, like a Zone Wars map, and then you want to have an event in the middle of the map. That can be like a Travis Scott event, or just like an event where people get different guns. So you need the class selector, but you obviously don't want people to run into the class selector. Thankfully, in the class selector, you obviously have to make sure that this is a link to the correct class. But in the class selector, there's an option to change player to class when receiving from. You need to set up to a custom channel that you want, and then we're gonna have our almighty loved mutator zone. This mutator zone is gonna give you the class, as the same way as it's gonna give you the class, or gonna teleport you on the other side here. Problem here is that we cannot have the mutator zone from the beginning. So we cannot just have the mutator zone on all the time, so everybody would just get randomly teleported to the class. People would not maybe get the class because they're already in the mutator zone. So what we need to do is set up a timer. So we're gonna reverse the roles here. We're gonna first have our timed objective device run down a countdown, which then activates the mutator zone. So you can see here that the timed objective device has channel 25 in here. When completed. So if that runs down, this mutator zone is going to get activated. So you can see here by game start, this is turned to off. This is very important, so we don't have it always on. And then when a player enters the zone, which means as soon as this goes on, a player enters the zone, and we can get our proper class. So in game, it would look something like this. You can see the timer runs down, event starts in, and we're standing now in the potato zone right now. You cannot see it obviously. And boom, there's the potato zone, and we got the changed class. Now we can have like gravity on low, have speed multiplier, and this is obviously super helpful in events. And one last thing which you can really use with the combination of classes is power-ups. I think power-ups are super underappreciated in Fortnite Creative, and they're not getting used too much. But especially the visual effect power-up here, where you can have the glow on the player, where you can have different colors, such as pink, purple, neon green, whatever. You can combine them by just setting up the same setting for the class, and there is an option. If you go down here, you can see pick up when receiving from. You're going to put that as the same as the potato zone, and then as soon as you get the new class, you also get the power up, which then makes the character glow green or whatever. So I think that's really cool and something you should really try to use and to make your live events that much better. And that's it with the video. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you can learn something, and definitely leave a like, subscribe, and obviously using supporter code RichieTunes is always appreciated. And I will see you guys back in the next video. Bye.